Element 9 is on negotiating in a foreign language. Why is this so important to corporate leaders? And what are the exact kind of breakdowns of this element that are important to know?
Yeah, that's a good one as well. I think when you live in the US, you have a tendency to think that the whole world speaks English, and a lot do. But you also have to remember that those of us, including myself, where English is the second language, we may sometimes struggle with the language, not because we're dumb, but because we have to handle another language as well, right? When we are negotiating, it's really important to understand the culture. And I often say that in order to really understand the culture and how people are thinking, you need to have an insight into the language as well. You may not need to speak it fluently, but you need to understand the terms and the ideas and how the language is built up. One thing you can do when you're studying culture and languages is just looking at difference between Britain and France. And that, when you dive into language, will actually give you some understanding of why they are negotiating so differently. And for instance, why the Brexit was a horrible negotiation, because the French negotiators were representing EU and the British negotiator was obviously representing Britain. And it was a culture clash right there, partly because of the language. So just back to your first question, why is communication chapter 1? Language is such a huge thing as well. And I don't really want to stress anybody by giving them the understanding that this is just horrible, complicated. That's not really what I want to do. But there are so many things that we really need to think about in preparing a negotiation. And language is just one of those many things as well. And then I want to raise a flag as well and say, often when you are representing a smaller language, for instance, I'm a native Dane, dual citizen to both Denmark and the US, lived here for many years, but Danish is a small language, so there's a tendency that you think that, hey, nobody speaks Danish. So you as a negotiation team, in a break in the negotiation, you just sit there and convert in your own language, whether that is Danish or whatever language it might be. And you don't think that the Americans sitting on the other side understand anybody speaking Danish, but perhaps they purposely brought somebody in the team who understand Danish, and perhaps they're not telling you they have that individual sitting there and just picking up any information. There's so many small items that is important to address regarding language as well.